Where would we be without the various products delivered by the men and women in the trucking industry? Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast is a platform for professional long-haul truck drivers to share their journeys over the road, educating listeners about the trucking industry and lifestyle. Now, let's dive into the conversation on this brand new episode. Well, greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Healthy Conversations in Trucking. And I'm joined by my husband and co-host, Jonathan Huntley. Hey, Jonathan.
Well, hello there, Doc. How you doing today?
A little tired, but otherwise I'm good.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You want me to tell you a knock-knock joke? Would that make you feel better?
No. It's just been a long day.
Long day. All right. Okay. I'll be easy on you.
So just in case you all can't tell, he's on the road. I'm in the home office. So I'm calling him to chat about a couple of things I was thinking about. So I'm going to jump into it. I was thinking about how, I know how it is for me. I have a small radius that I drive. I don't have much of a commute these days, but I drive on familiar roads. You're laughing because I spent several years with no commute. So now I have a 10-mile commute a couple of days a week. But anyway.
It's killing you.
But you know how I know for me, I'm driving in my regular town, regular routine. I know where certain little things are in the road. I know when it turns a certain way, and I know when I watch out for potholes. I know when I watch for a certain, dip on a side of a road. There's a certain part in town where they've done a lot of construction, but before they did that, there was a part where you would go around the curve and the grate on the side creates a bit of a dip. And if you're not watching, it'll make you swerve. So when you're going on these repeated patterns, you kind of know when it's coming and know when to watch for it. That's me here in my little local area. So my thought was, I wonder what it's like over the road. Because a lot of you guys and women will travel some of the same pathways, same roadways, not all the time over and over, but you'll do them frequently enough. I wonder if you notice, certain patterns, as you travel over hundreds of miles versus my handful of miles. So that's my question for you.
Well, Doc, that is a very interesting question. I'm glad you brought that up today because, yes, traveling up and down the East Coast and even, the times I did go out on the West Coast, delivering cars out to San Diego and things like that, there are roadways that, most truckers know about that have their major problems. Interstate 20 through Mississippi, the entire I-20. I mean, if you're not buckled in, you'll hit your head on the ceiling when you're going over we call it whip-de-doos. So, those are bad.
So try to describe what a whip-de-doo is.
A whip-de-doo was, back in the day when we were BMX biking, we'd be on the tracks and there would be a course of bumps that we'd drive over and we call them whip-de-doos, as we, jumped over them. If you weren't careful, you'd crash out. The same thing in the truck, especially if you have a bobtail. You hit some of these truck or bumps on the road and, your hind end just goes flying all over the place. So that's one part. There's a couple spots, I go down to Charleston a lot, taking cars down to the port. And on 26, as soon as you pass 95, before the chicken coop and after the chicken coop, there's these two bridges. And if you don't straddle the bridge, run along that zipper line, you're going to it could toss you off into the wall. So those spots. And, I could go on and on and on. 95, up through Fayetteville, there's a dip in the road. On 85 going towards Atlanta, coming out of Augusta, again, after the chicken coop, the road has got a dip in it. It feels like it's about 10 foot down because, I swear the front end of your truck comes up. And I do remember this one time when I was out in South Dakota and I was running out there and I had no idea because it was the first time I'd been on that road. And I was moving pretty good and I hit a bump and I swear to God that my front wheels came up off the ground. And I had a car on the head rack too. So I don't know what they've done with that one, but that was a nasty one. But I'll tell you what, you only hit it once.
I guess you remember after that.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Well, I know that there are, I don't know. I guess it just seems like even when I travel, I guess a little bit on the highway, things you remember. But I know that there are times that we've been talking on the phone and you cross a state line and we will automatically get cut off. And
yeah, that was like when we were coming, south and out of Pennsylvania, hit that Mason-Dixon line. And I guess the North wanted to, stick it to the South again, I guess. And they just cut the phone lines until you get back into Maryland. So
I guess it makes sense, but then again, it just kind of, like I said, when I travel a very small radius, even back in the days when I lived in, I had bigger commutes around cities and so forth. I guess I just don't think about when you're driving across multiple states, what it's like to have those familiarities in the road like that.
Well, it comes in, it's an advantage also because, you're on a 3-lane highway and up ahead that one of the lanes are going to cut off and traffic's going to back up and it's around that 5-hour rush time. Instead of staying in the hammer lane, get over in the granny lane and look for those cars, slamming on their brakes. So it's an advantage also to the drivers to know the area you're in. And if you drive up and down the road, once, twice, 3 times a week, you start to pick up those patterns, and it only helps your driving, and it helps you become a safer driver too.
Do you remember telling me about? I'm trying to remember if it was 95 or 20. I want to say it was 95. You would hit. There's some part where you hit a big dip in the road.
Yeah, that is on 95, probably about marker 11 coming out of Georgia into South Carolina. It is my good friend there, Pete Silva, who was on the podcast a while ago, alerted me to that coming back up out of Brunswick. And that was about a year ago. And I hit it, goodness, it had to be about 6 months ago. And, the whole trailer and truck bottomed out and scraped the road. When I came out of that, I guess you'd want to call it a valley.
Are you driving too fast for that when that happens?
No, because speed limit there is 70. So, you're doing 70, 75 miles an hour and it creeps up on you. You don't see it. And you go into it. And by the time you come out of it, you see the scrapes and sparks coming off your trailer.
I don't imagine it bothers, hits the cars that much. I remember driving through there. You were telling me about it, but I never experienced it with my car.
Right. Well, you might have been in the fast lane the way you drive. So.
You just had to throw that in there.
Yes.
Well, that's just.
But, like I said, there's certain advantages to knowing the roadways that you're on up and down the East Coast. And, you get familiar with the roads. And it saves time also. It just makes you a safer driver, especially in the wintertime. When the ice and stuff hit the roads and things like that, you got to know which states, put down the chemicals and what states use salt. New York, I think they're the only state in the union that does the salt anymore instead of the chemicals. But, power is knowledge. And the more you know about the roadways, the safer you're going to be.
So, well, now we're getting a little bit on a tangent, but I now you brought that up. I have to ask the question about chains. Like, when do you need to have chains on your tires?
Well, over here on the East Coast, we don't have any chain laws.
I know. That's why it's really strange to me to hear it.
Some drivers, usually the West Coast guys, will always carry chains on their truck because, believe it or not, the chain law effect is starting to come into effect. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to be next month. The chain law goes in effect in Colorado's up there in the Rockies and, out there in Wyoming and Oregon. And up there in the higher elevations, you know, I remember I was out there one time and I was climbing Elk Mountain. And when I started at the bottom, it was 65 degrees and sunny. When I got to the top, it was 25 degrees and a blizzard. So in situations like that, you know, there's a chain law. And if you don't have chains on your truck, they don't necessarily have to be on your wheels as long as they're on the truck. But if you don't have them on a truck, that's a very hefty fine, and you can be put out of service until you put chains on the truck. So we don't really deal with that stuff on the East Coast.
How do you know that, though? Is it posted somewhere?
Yeah, it is posted. It's posted along the alongside of the roads, on the highways. The chain law will be in effect, and some will say, you know, you must chain up to go any further. Mm-hmm. And you know, most of the East Coast guys will just park at a safe haven or a safe parking spot before, you know, trying to throw the chains on. That's a different animal there. I've never personally thrown chains on a truck, but I've heard it's extremely hard to do. So,
so just to put in,
those people who do it.
Just to put into context, you said starting next month, so you're meaning starting around September is when they start to require that? Because
I believe so.
Someone may be listening at a different time of the year, but somewhere early fall, you can start requiring the higher elevations.
Yeah, because it starts to snow a lot earlier.
Yeah,
up there in the Rockies, and you know, up in the upper higher elevations.
Yeah.
You know, we could still be 95 degrees here in South Carolina, and it'd be 25 degrees in, you know, Denver, Colorado.
I know. It just reminded me, completely random thought. Of course, I'm here in South Carolina. It's about 2 weeks ago. I had a meeting with, and so we're talking mid-August. I had a meeting with a friend of mine who lives in Iowa, and she had on short sleeves. And I thought, you're not already having snow yet? She's like, no, it's still nice here. Okay, yeah. Random thoughts. I started with one question, but interesting. Makes me think about a lot of things, but I will not have a full half hour of random thoughts. I think we'll wrap it up from here, but I think that just kind of points to all the interesting things that you need to consider when you're out on the road traveling across, you know, different parts of the country and different weather situations and just a lot to think about.
Yeah, it is. And that's, you know, it's part of our job. We're on the roadways and, you know, mostly 80,000 pounds. And if you don't know the road conditions, you don't know the road you're traveling on, you know, it could cause a hazard for other people around you. So the more you know, the better off you are.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering my questions on this episode.
It was my pleasure, Doc.
Stay safe out there. And as we wrap up, I would like to remind you that if you are a driver of the road and you would like to be a guest on our podcast to just come and chat with us and share your story, then you are welcome to do so. You can visit our website, which is Healthy Conversations in Trucking, or simply HCITpodcast.com, and click on Be a Guest and fill out the form, schedule a time to meet with us, and it's as simple as that. So we invite you.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear from people that actually throw chains.
And
drive with them on.
So it's called throwing chains.
Yeah, throwing chains, yeah.
Why not just installing the chains or something like that?
Because
you got to throw them.
Yeah, you got to throw them on the tire.
Okay.
They're heavy. Weigh about as much as your car.
All right. Well, thank you again. And until next time, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast. Learn more or be a guest on a future episode by visiting healthyconversationsinTrucking.com or simply HCITpodcast.com.